Hello and welcome back to Bookish Brits. My name is Michelle and I'm so sorry that I have been mostly absent on this channel for such a long time. I'll tell you what it is, I've been going through a massive reading slump. That reading slump has stemmed from so many different things. A dip in my own mental health, more issues concerning my father's health, other family members, drama getting me down, as well as just some pressure, I think. Pressure on book bloggers and booktubers is something that's discussed quite a lot, and I've always thought that I had the right routines and habits down to minimize the pressure on myself, and it turns out not so much. Normally speaking, the last few years I've read roughly 200 to 220 books a year. The majority of that the majority of those books are generally YA books. A lot of them are books that have been sent for review, and I've really enjoyed reading all of those books lately. But this year, it's May now, so we're already 4 months of a year gone. Normally I'd have read between 15 or 20 books a month. Up to this point, at least 10 books a month, right? I'm filming this in the first week of May, and so far this year I've read 27 books. And I was thinking about it recently that in order to shake things up in my reading, in order to get past this reading slump, I've had to really change reading habits, and that's what I wanted to discuss just a little bit in this video. So of those 27 books that I've read so far this year, 7 of those books have been YA books. That is a lot lower of a figure than I would expect for this this point in the year. 27, I mean, and for out of those 27, for the only 7 of the books to be YA is pretty astounding, especially with how I've been reading over the last 5 years or so. So I can definitely see a shift forming because of the other types of books on the list. 8 of the books have been adult or new adult romance. This probably is a higher number than normal, only because I use romances to help me get out of reading slumps. They're really quick to read, they can be emotional, I like that. When I'm at my full reading capacity, these romances will still be included, but not such a higher number. So far this year I've read 3 non-fiction books, and I've been really pleasantly surprised by how much I've been enjoying reading non-fiction. I have 2 more non-fiction books on the go at the moment. I have at least 2 more that I've downloaded on my Kindle, and those are the books that I'm really excited to read right now, and I like being excited to read. One of the book out of the 27 books I've read so far this year was a literary fiction book that I'd had on my shelves for ages. I have been finding reading my own books to be a wonderful experience lately, and the final 8 books that I have read this year have been poetry collections. That is where all of my excitement is right now. It's in reading poetry and discovering new poems and poets. So if you have any poetry or non-fiction recommendations, please do leave these in comments below. I just feel like this reading slump has gone on for absolutely ages, and I needed to do something, anything, in order to shift myself out of it. And I tried all of my usual tactics, rereading old favorites, flipping through magazines or cookbooks, watching film adaptations, reorganizing my bookshelves, trying a different format, reading on my Kindle, trying an audiobook, reading a different genre than normal. So if I normally read mostly YA contemporary, I'll pick up like a sci-fi or a fantasy book. None of those things were working, but this whole reading my own books thing has helped. A lot of the poetry books that I've been reading this year came from the library, and also just reading a different type of book than normal. I've been enjoying reading literary fiction, non-fiction, and poetry, and I kind of feel like that's how things will go in terms of my own reading habits lately. So let me just walk you through the books that I'm reading at the moment. Because I am still in a reading slump, I do have to kind of force myself to continue reading, to picking up my Kindle or a physical book when I can. It isn't always the first thing on my mind, and that's kind of how I know I'm still in a slump. Collection of short stories. This is called Everything That Rises Must Converge by Flannery O'Connor. I'm not very far into it. I think I'm only in the second short story. I picked this up absolutely ages ago. I think years and years and years ago when I was reading books off of the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die collection of recommendations, and this was one of them. I've heard really interesting things about Flannery O'Connor, and I think I'm still making up my mind, having only read 44 pages of her work so far, but I'll definitely let you know when I finished it what I thought of this book. I'm also reading a really massive collection of poetry. This is The Pleasures of the Damned by Charles Bukowski, and these are his poems between 1951 and 1993. It says on the top here the definitive volume of Bukowski's poems, and that is the reason that I bought this book, and that's the reason why I'm reading it. I have read a lot of Charles Bukowski's poems already. You can find them on poetry websites quite often, but I wanted to read this collection just to see how it's pretty massive, right? I don't think that I've read this amount of his poetry so far. So while I am loving the poems that I'm already familiar with in this book, I'm not very far into it, 24 pages in, that's not that many poems. And I have already come across poems that I'm familiar with. A Smile to Remember I've read and loved already before. And I'm already also reading 2 non-fiction books. The first is Quiet, and it's about introverts. And recently I read a book called The Highly Sensitive Person. And it was so much fun to read about attributes that I have myself, that I thought it would be interesting to read another book, and this one is about introversion. The second non-fiction book that I'm reading is called The Big Picture, and it's very much a book asking big questions about what the meaning of life and everything is, looking at science and language and philosophy. And the author is very engaging and writes in this very appealing way, especially for someone like me who is very phobic to the hard sciences and scientific principles that he does bring up and discuss. I'm only about 20% into The Big Picture, and I'm roughly about halfway through Quiet, but nonfiction is definitely an area that I haven't explored as much, and I'm definitely interested to read more books, especially concerning history, psychology, science, language, gender issues. So for sure, leave me comments down below and let me know what I should be reading. So I'm sorry that this video was kind of all over the place today. I really just wanted to film something so you could see my face again and recognize it, and just to get me going into filming and uploading again, because it's a process, right? And because I've been out of it for so long, it's going to take me a little bit longer to find my feet in this community again. So thank you very much for the continued support, both personally and on this channel. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you again next time.